In this next discussion that we're going to talk about, Jesus mentions something about the altar. The altar. So I have a model of what that altar would have looked like, or where it was in the temple, in the holy temple of God in Jerusalem. And so I'm going to lift this up. It's pretty heavy. So I'm going to see if I can show it to you and then remember it when I talk about it later. Here is a model of the temple, and right here, I hope you can see this, right there is the altar. So it has that gold thing on it. Do you see it? Right there. I hope you can see it. And so I'm going to put this down and let's discuss this. So Jesus is coming against the scribes and Pharisees again, and this is his fourth woe out of 7. And so this time he says, woe unto you, what? Hypocrites, right? Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Pharisees who were play actors. Behind the mask, their fakeness was an evil, corrupt, greedy, covetous type person. Covetous meaning wanting money and things. And so they were really sad to Jesus and very upsetting. And so what he says in this passage, he says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees. And he starts talking. This is the longest one, or one of the long ones here, that Jesus mentions. He goes on and on about this. And what he's really trying to get to is kind of parallel to what he said in the Sermon on the Mount about oaths. Remember oaths? Promises. And do you happen to remember what Jesus said? He said, don't swear. Don't do oaths. Get them out of your vocabulary. Get them out of your life. And in the life of those people in the first century, they were doing it constantly. Well, hey, I swear, cross my heart, da, 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 da. And what Jesus wants you to do is live with a period. What do I mean by that? Well, it says, he's saying that whatever you say, you don't have to say, hey, I swear it. Hey, I promise it. I'm telling the truth. Cross my heart on that. What he says is whatever you say, like here's some statement, period. Your period is all you need. You don't have to add, I promise, or I swear it and all. This is what you need to live by. What you say is what you are. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. You don't have to say, yes, I promise. You don't have to do that. You don't have to add the promise. So yes, I swear for real. Or I swear according to the, and then you talk about, like I swear to God. Well, back then, and even in certain areas today, they wouldn't say, I swear to God, because God, his name is holy, and you don't want to break the commandment of the 10 commandments. The third commandment says, thou shalt not take the Lord of your God in vain. And so instead of saying the God, they would say, well, heaven, by heaven, I swear this. In other words, where God lives, or by his throne of heaven, where he sits, or even by earth or something. That's his footstool, if you remember. And so this passage is parallel with this. And so this is what Jesus said. I'm going to get it. Whoa, where's my Bible? Here it is. I'm going to read this passage. And again, what he's doing right here is he's coming down in judgment. He's throwing the hammer. He's throwing the gavel against them through words. And he's saying, woe unto you. Or how about another way of saying it? Shame unto you. Shame on you. Is another way you could think of woe unto you. Curses be on you. And judgment's coming on you. Because this is what he said that what they were doing at this time. And it's like, I think 5 verses here, where a lot of those is just one verse. Woe unto you. And he also says blind guides. So now he's calling them blind guides. Jesus healed blind people, and he actually wanted to heal the spiritual blindness of these Pharisees and all, but he called them blind. You guys don't see right. You don't see the truth of God's right, the truth of the Word of God. You don't see the kingdom of heaven, which is right here among you, because I'm the king, and you don't see me as the Messiah. They're blind. And then he says, you blind guides. Would you want someone, bless their hearts, a blind person to guide you around? Like, here, can you come and guide me? Well, that's what these guys were. They were hired blind people, a lot of them, especially Sanhedrin and all. They were taking the money of God, of the people, of the taxes, of the temples and everything. And they're blind guides. Remember, he also said, I think it was it chapter 15, where it says the blind will lead the blind into the ditch. And that's what they were doing. They were leading the people wrong. And so he's coming against that, trying to help the people see this, and also trying to help those Pharisees to change. He says, whoever shall swear by the temple, here's that swearing again, that oath. Whoever shall swear by the temple, that's where God's supposed to be, he dwells in that, like God's house, he said. Whoever swears by the temple, this is what they were saying. This is what the Pharisees are saying. Now, this is kind of crazy. So try and follow this. It's pretty deep. This is what the Pharisees, scribes says, whoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. Like, it's okay, you can promise by the temple, it's nothing, it's not that big of a deal. Every word that you say is a big deal. Be careful what you say. But they were saying, it's nothing, it's not that big of a deal. And now what they were doing here is they were going to do levels here of, if you swear by the temple, it's nothing. If you swear by this, which he goes on to say, he says, but whoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. Like you need to follow through with what you promise you're going to do. Gold of the temple. And what he's saying here, I think, is the coins, the money that they were spending. We'll get into this some other time. The korban, the korban of what they were spending, like the money they were offering in the temple. If you swear by the gold of the temple, now you need to do what you say. And this is what he goes on and explains here. He even says, you fools. He called them fools. There's a time that needs to happen here. And he said, you fools and blind. Second time he's calling them blind. When he says it second time in the same phrasing, he's emphasizing something. When he repeats something and it's really close, he's saying, hello, wake up, you're blind. And by the way, the people listen to this were like shocked that he's being so strong against, these are your teachers, these are your Bible teachers. Now, there's some really good Bible teachers, no doubt, and there's the ones that are wrong, and they're not living right, and they're greedy, and they want that money from the temple, that gold from the temple. He says, you fools and blind, for which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold holy, that sanctifies the gold? Which is greater, do you know? That temple that I showed you in the beginning, that big thing, which is better? Is it the temple? Which is more important, the temple or the gold in the temple? I'll tell you right now, it's the temple itself. So if you remember, you got this temple. I've drawn this before, okay? And it kind of goes like this, not straight down. It's kind of curved in, so it's not a perfect rectangle. And then you have the temple proper, which is here. And then you got, this is that thing I was showing you. This thing, this rectangle there, is the thing that I showed you in the very beginning, that heavy thing in the beginning. That's that right here. And then you have the dome here, and then you have a division here, okay, here. And then you have rooms here, right here, there are 4 rooms. And then there were 3 gates here, okay, that's the court of the women. Remember, I've told you this is a court of the Gentiles, this is a court of the women. Then you have the court of the men, which is this part right in here, this strip right here, which is court of men. Anyway, then you have the court of priests, and then you have this right here. Okay, I'm going to show you that right there. It looks like a sideways T. Do you see that right there, like the sideways T? And actually, there were rooms here. See the little rooms? And then can you see this when I'm drawing here? Rooms. There were a lot of rooms where they had storage of stuff. And then you had this part. And then right here, I'm going to draw this in red just so you can see what I'm really drawing here. The red is the altar. And we're going to get to the altar in a second. The altar sat right about there. Okay, and as far as my studies have shown, and I'll see if it's accurate as I study more, like, historical documents and all, that red part right there was a big altar, and that's about where it was, that's for sure, but it's actually said to be 30 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 15 feet high. That's one massive altar, and you had to go up a ramp, and then you take the animals, birds and beasts, and that you would kill it and you would burn it in there. Of course, they take the meat and they would eat it, the priests and all that, most of them. So it wasn't a waste. But anyway, it was sacrificing for God. So then he goes on and says, and whoever, this is what the Pharisees and all that, the scribes are saying, It says, whoever shall swear by the altar, that's that altar, that red part right there. Hope you can see it there. See, let me see if yeah, right there. Can you see that red altar where they were burning all those animals? That was a massive place right there, a massive big thing. Sorry, I think I hit the camera. It said, it says, whoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing. Like I swear by the altar, I promise by that altar in the temple that, you know. And then it says, for whoever, and then it says, but whosoever swears by the gift that is upon it, like the animal or the beast or the bird, he is guilty. Like, it's like they're saying, well, this is more holy than this and this. God's saying, scrap all of that. Your words mean something, even if you think it's a little lie, or if you think you're not supposed to, you know, you're not supposed to hold to what you say. See, your words should be gold. Speaking of gold, whatever you say, you should follow through with it. If you say you're going to do this, you should do it. If you say you're going to do that, you should do that. So they're saying that if the people were saying it like crazy in that time, like for several centuries right in there. And what happened is they just would make light of the words. And then they were saying, the Pharisees said, well, it's okay. If you swear by this, it doesn't matter that much. But if you swear by that, no. That's what they were doing. So Jesus was really dealing with it. And then he says, whoever shall swear by the altar swears by it and all the things therein, you know, thereon, whatever's on that altar. Whoever shall swear by the temple swears by it and by him that dwells therein. Now he's talking about God. See, all this has to do with God. Everything kind of points to whatever you say, God's listening, and you are going to follow through. You should follow through with what you're saying. And then he says, and he that shall swear by heaven swears by the throne of God and him that sits thereon. See, whatever you're swearing, he's saying that again, like he said in the past. So there's verse after verse, line after line of Jesus saying that whatever you say, you're kind of bound to your words. Like this is like, let's say, a chain of binding here. Okay, so here, you're bound to it. So what you say out of your mouth, like this, you're saying it, you're bound to do it. And you don't have to say, promise this, I swear to that, the temple, the altar in the temple, the gold on the altar, not on the altar, on the, in the temple, the gold in the temple, just all of it. It's just a mess. And so Jesus really dealt with it. And so it's very important for you and me to speak truth and to say what you mean and mean what you say. And then you need to follow through with it, and you don't have to add all these other things. Let your word be a period. So if I say, hey, I'm going to get that to you. And then in my mind, if I say I'm going to get that to you, period. I don't have to add anything to it. So, all right, very good. Hope you got something out of that. Just if you say, what's the whole point? Be honest. Quit lying. Don't lie about things. And don't swear and promise things. Just be so honest of a person that what you say, people don't have to wonder if you're going to do it, because you're dependable. And that shows great character and great heart. And that's the idea. Thanks for listening.